Canada-US border is the longest in the world, spanning almost 9,000 kilometers. The two countries are long-time allies, sharing similar interests and industries that are largely intertwined. Bilateral trade between the two countries is worth a combined $1.3 trillion. A good portion of that is due to the auto industry. On average, more than 7,000 trucks cross the Ambassador Bridge between Windsor in Canada and Detroit in the US each day.
About probably 80 or 85% of what we make in Canada in the auto industry is exported largely to the United States. So we buy more than we ship. But the cars that we buy are not necessarily the ones that we build here. And that allows them to achieve economies of scale, which lower costs and promote innovation and so on.
Workers at On Freight Logistics, a Canadian trucking company based in Windsor, prepare another vehicle for the road. The Canadian trucking industry is big business. Trucks carry some 70% of all trade between the US and Canada.
The integration of the auto industry in Ontario, specifically in the US, is very large. There is so much integration. Many parts go back and across the border 3, 4, 5, up to 6 or 7 times, I've heard.
But traffic between the two countries has slowed in recent months. That's largely down to the trade war between the US and Canada following a flurry of tariffs and counter-tariffs. This is Yarn Engineering, based just outside of Windsor. The company makes tools and dies, machines used to make auto parts.
So with the tariffs, the OEMs, that's the guys who make the cars, they have cost uncertainty. They're not sure what their costs are. So because they have cost uncertainty, they're not sure where they're going to put their manufacturing facilities. They're not sure which cars they're going to build. So what they do right now, because of the cost uncertainty, they just stop all the new tooling programs. They're not all stopped, but the lion's share are stopped. Since the turn of the year, we've seen companies lay off as much as 50% of their staff.
Qasim Kershid is a truck driver. He's now concerned about the possibility of losing his job.
I do see that the borders are kind of slow, they are quiet, a lot of booths are closed, and the work is kind of slow, and everybody is like heartbroken and really impacted by this, because if we wouldn't have any jobs, we have no idea what the future holds for us.
Business doesn't like uncertainty, and when there's uncertainty in business, business is not going to make decisions that are positive for the economy.
No viable company can survive or move forward with cost uncertainty. You have to know what your costs are to be able to survive.
Companies like this one are also concerned about the long-term impacts continued tariff uncertainty might have across various industry sectors. That includes worries that potential job cuts could push many skilled workers out of those industries, never to return.
When this whole tariff situation is settled, what's probably going to happen now is we already had a skills gap. We already had a skills vacuum. It's going to get worse because a lot of people are going to leave the industry and not come back. And then the reason they're leaving the industry is they have to make a living. They have to stay alive. They have to eat.
The US is Canada's largest trading partner. Almost 2/3 of the country's exports are sent to the US. If the tariffs are imposed for any length of time, experts predict the impact on Canada's economy will be significant.
If vehicle sales stall, manufacturing will stop. The car companies will not keep building cars if they can't sell them. They just can't do that, and they won't. So if they're not building cars, they will lay the workers off. You know, this will snowball through the entire economy of the globe.
Added to the US trade war, the US President Donald Trump has repeatedly questioned Canada's sovereignty, suggesting it should become the 51st US state. One reaction has been the strengthening of the Buy Canada movement. Liquor shelves in many provinces have been cleared of US alcohol, while stickers in supermarkets urge customers to buy Canadian. Canadians are also cancelling holidays to the US and selling US property and vacation homes. The Canadian government has also attempted to improve trade between its provinces.
The key issue is Trump and economics. The stronger we can be internally, get rid of the interprovincial barriers to trade, strengthen our ties with other like-minded nations, and the more we can build a robust economy, the better off we're going to be in the long run.
I think for a long time we've been complacent because we've had this major friendship with the U.S. You know, you could just almost, go back and forth freely. You felt like neighbors, and then somebody comes along and decides that, well, we're not so neighborly. Well, now we have to stand up for ourselves.
Longer term, some experts believe Canada may now look to diversify trade with Europe and Asia.
If we diversify trade relationships, we can essentially emulate our Australian cousins a little bit. It's perfectly fine to have an economy that has sort of two big sectors, natural resources and agricultural, and then a small high-tech and services sector. That's perfectly fine, and you can do well with that because there's a lot of demand for that around the world. But it will be a painful transition for Canadians, for sure.
In the meantime, many fear for the impacts on industries and jobs.
It was working well. Americans were employed, Canadians were employed. It's just going to drive up costs and take money out of the hands of consumers, which they could use for other things.
Certainly will not be good for the economy. It certainly will not be good for the U.S. economy. It will certainly not be good for any economy to tariff each other and back and forth reciprocal tariffs. The only person who's going to pay for that is the consumer.
Canada and U.S. have worked seamlessly through the trade agreements. It's beneficial for both sides. Both sides win. The Americans leverage Canadian resources. Canadians leverage U.S. resources. It's a win-win situation.
The fallout from the trade war continues, but the long-term impacts have yet to be fully calculated. Dan Williams, CGTN, Windsor, Canada.